So is it my take on how museums interact with communities? I believe through this discussion, we have come to realize that there is further work to be done in these public programs. There's also a determination of what community is. Do we want to call it community? What is it publics? Is it society? Who are we talking about, and how can we bring them into the conversation of pushing forward a generational art knowledge production? So in this sense, how do museums interact with community? I think there's a start. There's also a respective work in each of these museums. For example, we're here in an archaeological museum, which has different practices. It's preservation, it's also Capo di Monte, which has bodies of collections from years and years ago. And also, how do you make that new? How are you able to engage those people and let them know, hey, you can also do this? It's those questions that we need to ask. Also, we have the Film Photography Museum with Harriet Mondlane, and which is also important. Visual education is important, because if we're talking about diversity, inclusion, we have to consider that as a former educator, well, you still are, you never change, but you have to be able to consider how people digest information, how human beings digest information. Some are visual, some are oral, some is so many different ways, and some is through touch, some is through practice, and sometimes all of it put together so that, you know, the brain works in so many different ways, and we have to be able to take into consideration who we are doing this for, and how can we bring them into this conversation, and how can we continuously follow and adapt, because everything that's made by humans is human error, and we learn through these errors in order to make it better and just push it forward. So how do museums interact with community? I wouldn't be able to tell you a specific answer. However, for Raw Material Company, which I am the Curator of Programs there, and our founder, Koyo Kuo, established in 2011 in Dakar, Senegal, it was seeing what is missing. And she saw that there is a lack of knowledge or knowledge that comes from us in terms of contemporary art in the African aspect, and everything was told in the Western approach or Western study, which is not false. However, we have to tell our own stories, but we also welcome other stories in these spaces, and we are big on creating documentation of this history. As I said earlier, the past is history, the present is history. We need to keep track of that. We have to document that in the process, and that is what Raw Material Company does. We continuously collaborate with experts, even people who are not in the field or interested, provide a form of interest and engagement in their practice to bring them in, to have conversations, document that, publish it, collaborate with them, put it in a library so that when the next generation comes through the space, they're able to know that we were there and that there was people that were brought into these conversations, and they could be them as well.